really honored to be here and able to present the Happy Memorial Lecture. And as such, following in the footsteps of many better persons than me. And I hope I can do them and you justice and show you the confidence worthy. So after the presentation, rounds of applause will be welcome. Throwing of ripe tomatoes is discouraged, as I'm wearing a very light colored suit this morning. So, planning the Toyota way, not the Kyoto way as it was in the initial program. It was just a slight misunderstanding between me and Graham. Sorry about that. So what's got Toyota's got anything to do with tanning? We'll see. Just to introduce myself, my name is as it is, and 51 years old, kids, grandchildren, interests, but the main thing is that I will be talking about something called lean and lean manufacturing today. Up till end of April this year, I was the managing director of Borge, Garveri, which is a tannery in Norway. We had unfortunately to close, and it might not be the best advertisement for speaking about the manufacturing principle that we've been doing for 11 years, but that's not the reason why we had to close. I suppose there is a time for everything, and for us that time was now. And we are all very sure about it. If we had not done what we have done in terms of the manufacturing way that we have been producing for the last 11 years, this situation would have come a lot sooner. We made side ladders for the shoe and leather goods trade in the medium to higher luxury market. But what's this lean, and why and how did we come about it? We had a strategy process in 1997, which was due to one of our largest customers had a change in styles, so we lost some turnover. And we had a good opportunity to really sit down and figure out we did a simple SWOT analysis actually. And we then found out that we were good tanners, we made a good product, we were told we were nice people to do business with, business ethics and everything. But in terms of manufacturing as a science in itself, we really hadn't any, when people asked how about your manufacturing philosophy and the way you manufacture, we really didn't have any structured idea about that. So we then started to do some research about manufacturing and ended up by finding Toyota, which in any way that you can benchmark a manufacturing process in terms of time to market, raw material utilization, quality, worker satisfaction, productivity, throughput time, dependability, and so on and so forth. Toyota is number one. So we then I read a book that called The Machine That Changed the World, which was a benchmarking study done by MIT in the States, which was ordered by the auto industry. And this benchmarking study investigated almost 50 manufacturing plants of cars all over the world, and found out then these results that Toyota was number one in every respect they measured. And they found that there were 3 guys doing this, and 2 of them found this so intriguing that they said, are these ways of manufacturing also being done in other instances, other industries, and have they given the same results as they have at Toyota? And they have. So they wrote a book called Lean Thinking, which is probably the best book that I can recommend for anyone wanting to learn more about this principle. Why manufacturing and why the auto industry? The car industry has always been in forefront of manufacturing principles in terms of setting standards for how it's to be done. Cadillac was the first company in the world in 1902 that made a product or a car with interchangeable parts. Later, Henry Ford's assembly line was a quantum leap at that time in terms of manufacturing. And later on in the 50s, after the war, Toyota started developing their production system, and that has then become the modern standard of manufacturing. And this is then spread from the auto industry to all other industries. So they have sort of been in the forefront for many major changes in manufacturing. So basically we decided to say, okay, let's learn from the best in the class. If we want to learn manufacturing, let's go and see what Toyota is doing. A little bit about the history of Toyota Motor Company. It's an old industrial company that used to make textile looms before the war. A little bit before the war also, the young Mr. Toyota wanted to make cars, to his father's little bit surprised, but he got a chance. After the war, there was, as you know, a big crisis in Japan especially. And apart from, or as a part of the help that especially the States, United States of America, did to Japan, they sent over people and helping them also to improve their manufacturing. Mr. Edward Deming was one of the persons who did this, and he brought with him the manufacturing principles that was called TWI, training within industry, that actually the war department in the States standardized the way of training operators for the war industry in the States. And those principles and those manuals are really good today, and Toyota still today recognized that they were a major influence in the way that they organized their production later. They later again went to the States, studied especially Ford, and the production manager at that time, a man called Taiichi Ohno, saw some really good things that he could bring back to Japan. Japan had not the market for big mass producement in terms of big series. They wanted diversity, and they wanted manufacturing in small series. So he found then a way of combining Ford's and the American way of manufacturing with their needs, and started making what today is called the Toyota Production System, or the civilian version, so to speak, lean manufacturing. As it has proven itself, it is no doubt its best way of conducting any manufacturing process, and it's applicable to a lot of areas, service industries, anything you can think of. So if you come across TPM or lean or 20 keys, I went to the keynote seminar in London in 1996. Maybe some of you did. And we had a very good lecture by Mr. Wickens, Professor Wickens, who explained his 20 keys principles that they had done at Sunderland, at Nissan. Later on I was thinking about that. I wasn't in the mood of thinking manufacturing at that time, but later on that was a very good lecture. So total quality management, Kaizen, just in time, all these expressions that you may have heard in some connection, all comes from Toyota. So what is this famous production system? Is it something that you can benefit from, or what is it actually? The main thing is that it's a very special way of seeing things. It's, yes, it's a set of techniques and tools, but it's more in terms of philosophy, or realizing that you have to have a profound respect for people, and that everybody can and will benefit given the chance, contribute given the chance. So it is very dependent on the trust and the empowerment, and the delegation of responsibility and authority is set in a very structured system. You are not just, as a fancy speak, turning the pyramid, you are effectively doing it in terms of hierarchy. You realize that the persons standing and doing the physical work on the leather or on a machine or whatever are the only ones who are actually doing the value adding, and as such increasing the value of the products that you sell and make money on. They are the only ones who can make it quick, slow, make it bad, or make it good. And everything else is really only support functions to make their job as effectively and as good as possible. And realizing this is a very structured system in terms of getting this creativity and the expertise and the knowledge that these people who stand and do the job forward, and to bring them on board. And it's something, if you just use the techniques, it's going to give you some advantages and some help, but really it is a way of life. It is a philosophy and a strategy that has to come from the very top and to go through the whole organization. You have to believe in this, and it has to be seen and done in all aspects of the business. So, want to just look at some of the techniques that then are used. The team organization bit is very important. Every body in an organization should be in a team. And we in the tannery, we had 11 teams, and everybody knew their role in the team. You then need to have training how to work in a team. What does it mean? What is expected of you? What is the role of a team leader? They strive to have consensus in all decisions that needs to be taken. As such, Toyota spent a lot of time discussing. They say that we, in the westernized world, we have a problem when we jump to a conclusion, and then we go and we try it, and then maybe we make a mistake, and then we go and try it again. Maybe because everybody didn't quite buy into the idea of what you wanted to do in the first place. They strive for consensus, and they say, well, we do maybe 80% implementing a suggestion and 20% planning it. They do the other way around. They can sit and talk for days about something, but when they then go and do it, they do it, and it's done with the consensus of everybody, and they only have to do it once, and it works. It's a different way of thinking. The delegated authority and responsibility is very strange for a lot of people in a traditional manufacturing environment to realize, since most of the times in a traditional manufacturing you are told, this is your job, this is your machine, do what you're told, and otherwise don't interfere or don't do anything else. This system requires you, or demands you, to take responsibility and to come forward with your ideas. And as such also, the authority and responsibility is effectively delegated down to the highest level as it is. So it's not uncommon for especially older workers to resist this change. They say, well, why do you want us now to do the thinking for you? We just here to work. We're here for the money. But you cannot work in this way if you have that kind of mindset. Sometimes when you have a project, you use a cross-functional team. And that can then consist of people from sales, engineering, manufacturing, different areas for certain projects. Do you hear me okay? Things going okay?
Yes.
Good. Thank you. I didn't say at the beginning that when I've started my own consultancy company, and this is now what I'm doing, going around and implementing this in different industries. And first time I wrote the abbreviation at the back of a file. It gave a very familiar abbreviation, and I hope Vicky and Adam won't tell me off, but I promise them I will not go into any nickel cadmium testing for the first part of my career. Housekeeping. It all starts with housekeeping, really. And that is more important than most people will recognize. They got something called 5S. But I also didn't know, anyone know, I know that the people from Scotland know the concept of lean, since they have been implementing it in some of the tanneries. But is the concept of lean manufacturing known? Or the Toyota, how many is actually know something or heard about the Toyota production system? Yeah, good. So it's not completely unfamiliar. So the 5S, all the S's stand for Japanese words that stand for something that's got to do with how to organize your housekeeping. And for a lot of people, this has become like a manufacturing principle in itself. As long as you clean and organize, everything will be okay. A lot of things will be okay, but it's not enough. And it really is the basic and the starting point for everything. They have recognized something called muda, or waste. And the recognition that any customer only wants to pay for the value that you added to the raw material that came into your process. When people are buying leather from us, they want to have the qualities that we put into the leather: tanning, dyeing, finishing. They don't want to have to pay for any cost that we've had on waiting for internal transports, all these things. Overproduction is the worst. If you make to stock something that you don't know if it's going to be sold or not, you put all the costs into it, all the man hours, but it hasn't generated a turnover. So produce to order, or to as minimum stock as possible, is the first thing. Everything that you produce that's not being sold is the worst mood that you can think of. Waiting. We do something called a value stream mapping, where you think about sitting on a hydro level as it comes in, and you time everything that happens to it. The value adding time is probably 15–20% of the total time of between the hide coming into a tannery and going out on the laureate's finish level. We come back to that. Unnecessary transport. Over-processing or incorrect processing. Over-processing. A lot of times we do stuff that we think is good, but is it actually perceived as quality by the customer? We can put in a lot of waterproof, nice both chemicals and characteristics in a leather, but is it actually an added quality perceived by the customer that they are willing to pay for? Excess inventory of not just the finished product, but also stock of parts and raw materials. Movements, coming down to physical handling. Defects, obviously, making something incorrect. And the eighth is very important, unused employee creativity. If you do not get everybody involved and get everybody to participate in the improvement of your business and your process, then you're really wasting a lot of creativity, a lot of potential good things. So that's important. So instead, if you have a tannery of 100 people, where you traditionally have maybe a management level and some supervisor, production manager, a tanner or two, maybe 10 people doing the thinking and the planning, then now you've got 100 who actively participate in improving the business and the work. Problem solving, Kaizen, is a major part. When you have a problem, a lot of times you fix the symptom. You don't go to the root of the problem. Toyota spend a lot of time going to the root of the problem. Take a very basic principle. You work on a machine and it stops. And you find out there's a bolt that snapped. Most people will then change the bolt, start up the machine again, and continue. And lo and behold, probably after 6 months or 3 months or 2 weeks, it will happen again because the bolt will snap again. Toyota would say, okay, let's stop and do a 5 why. Why did the machine stop? Okay, because the bolt snapped. Why did the bolt snap? Well, it was very dry, friction. Well, why was it dry and material fatigue made it break? Well, it wasn't lubricated. Why wasn't it lubricated? Because, well, either it could be the operator who didn't know how to maintain the machine, or there wasn't a structured system for maintenance, or the grease nipples were blocked, or the line that was going to bring the grease to the bolt wasn't there. So you go down until you find the root cause of why the bolt snapped, and you fix that. Then, when you fix the root cause, that bolt will not snap again. And if you take that time and do a structured problem-solving exercise via various of the techniques that the team members then will be trained in, you actually get rid of a lot of the problems at the root level. Various others, plan, do, check, act, call also the Deming wheel, where you always improve. Once you do something, you make a change, you check it, and you act on it, and that will then become the standard that you then revise again. So it's always a wheel that goes forward. A fishbone diagram with the 4 M's, you're having a problem, and you make see what different elements could go into the problem. Is it man, the method, the material, or the machine? That is the problem. Using pivot in Excel is excellent also, where you can put up all the different things that is happening, or different things that you measure, and if you then do it in a pivot, you can find out better the cause. And the team. It's the team that drives this continuous improvement. I mentioned very briefly the value stream mapping. And this is to define the value-adding activity. As I said, most processes, traditional processes, probably would have an average about 20% value-adding and 80% waste, unnecessary activity, or activities that does not involve value adding. Let's say you have transport, you need to have some kind of transport from one process to the other. But does it have to be from one end to the building to the other? Can you put two machines more closely together? So it's the unnecessary non-value adding activities that you want to find and do something about. Also, spaghetti diagram. If you have a perfectly lined production and you make a flow diagram and you have it then one process by the other and you follow it through, it looks good. What we did, and what a lot of people might do, I'm not saying you, it would happen in your factories, but it happened in our factory. We took one article we did for all our articles, and you make a point saying, this is the starting point. And then we just, with the layout of the tannery, and made, okay, it goes from there to there. And then you take it from there to there, then it goes back here, and you do something, because we had a press that was placed there at one time, and then you go down a level to do something else, and then you bring it up. And you do this, and at the end you get what you call a spaghetti diagram, where it looks like a drunken fly that's been walking in ink over a piece of paper. It's a very visual way of showing a flow, and it's an eye-opener. I make the statement that in all, I would say now, normal leathers, following normal manufacturing, can be done in 4 days. With today's current technology, without any interference with the product. Let's just make a very quick assumption. You have a 24-hour, normal, standard 24-hour soaking line. So at day 2 morning, you flesh, and you line split for those who line split. The next day, you sand. Bring it out of tanning, you sand. You can split at the same time, or if you were to split, you can shave it at the same day. How long does putting a leather through a sanding machine? 20 seconds. Same with a splitting machine. Another half minute for shaving. So within the first 1 or 2 hours, you can have it in. After it comes out of tanning, there's no problem getting it into retanning. Normal retanning process from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, but in a day it's not a problem getting it into retan, out of retan, and then of course when you get it out, it's another 2 minutes to set it out and vacuum dry it and hang it up. So at the morning of day 4 you have the crushed leather. And how long time does it take to stake, finish a piece of leather? You do it in the lab on trial every day. So I would say four days of making a piece of leather without doing any changes to the technology as we know it today is not a problem. Anyone disagree with me on that? Thank you. That's interesting. Good. We can maybe talk about that, as you're not allowed to give questions, but we can talk about that in a break. I know there are certain characteristics that you want to have that by resting and so on. But then that's manufacturing time. That's process time. But even if you want to leave things from, let's say, samming to splitting overnight, you will see that 5 or 6 hours probably will be enough. If you double the time that I've just said, you do 8 hours, 8 days, 9 days. We took our manufacturing time from about 24, 25 days down to an average of 12.5 days for all our production on average. Our major article we did in 9 working days at the end. And our aim was to come down to an average 10 days for the whole production, and we would have done that within a year. So Dr. Sykes actually showed me a piece of leather one time, a long time ago, that he said, do you know how long time it took us to make this leather? And everybody had their, I don't know, probably something special since he's waving it. And that was done in 7 hours from rawhide to finished leather. It wasn't the best leather in the world, but it was a piece of leather. So he had some ideas concerning that too. It might not be of interest, and that a customer might be willing to pay for the added time and the added value. And as such, that's great, then it's processing. But when you think about how many processes we do, or how much waiting that we do that is non-value adding whatsoever, you will be able to cut down your throughput times considerably. One tool which is probably one of the most important things is what we call a 24-hour meeting. We had a meeting at 9:30 on a management level every morning. Before that, the various departments had their meeting, and we hadn't come to that yet, but we also wanted the teams to have their daily meetings before they went to the departmentalized meetings, and then came to my meeting. I will say that after we started with a 24-hour meeting, although I was a production manager at the tannery 7 years before I became managing director, I had now, as a managing director, a lot better pulse on the daily production that I had when I was a production manager, with this way of monitoring the production. Everything that happened that was of interest to discuss came up. It was a stand-up meeting. Me, sales manager, technical director, quality and maintenance, and the 2 supervisors for the 2 areas. And it took maximum 15 minutes. We had daily monitoring of daily KPIs, and always with anything that's got to do with Toyota, and also that's a sign of the respect for the people. In any instance that you discuss things, you should always do it in the following priority: health and safety number 1, quality of the product number 2, and productivity as number 3. And this meeting also meant that a lot of the other meetings we had, weekly meetings, 14-hour meetings, we didn't have to have them. As you probably understand, these various techniques and tools, and also the mindset of this, it takes a lot of training and talk and communication and time spent with everybody involved to explain what the system is like, why you're doing this, and also train them in the various techniques. So training is a very important element to make this happen. We first start with standardized operating procedures for every process. And it's not the production manager or the tanner who makes it, it's the guys themselves or women who make the processes. You ask them, what do you actually do? When you come in the morning and you are to do a retanning process, or you're going to shave leather, what do you actually do? And you note it down, and you get it in the right sequence, and you agree maybe on another shift, or the other, is this the way we agreed to do it? And then you said, yes, this is the best practice that we have, and the way we are actually doing it today. That becomes the standard operating procedure. This then becomes the point of revision. Whenever there's something that comes up, you say, okay, what did we agree on? And that becomes then an automatic revision of the standard operating procedure. And this is always then revolving and changing. This is also actually why one of the reasons there was, I asked Professor Wickens at United 6 about the 20 keys system, which is really the Toyota production system, but just separated into 20 different areas, and they call them keys. Now, does this in any way be in conflict or can work together with ISO? And he said ISO is way too limiting. And at that time, the ISO did not have a continuous improvement element in it. The new ISO standard now have. So it's become a much more a better system. But at that time, it was more like a straitjacket than anything. I had people in the chemical industry who told me that they were very happy if they were supplying a tannery if at the time that they became ISO certified, because then they know nothing would happen for at least 3 years. No change, because the work involved in just making all the procedures was so tiring that nothing would change for at least 3 years. That's changed now, of course. You got something called one-point lectures, which is small or simple procedures, opening valves, servicing spray guns, switching on and off machinery in what sequence, can be done on 1 page with pictures. And this is then laminated and then put aside so it becomes the standard. Train the trainer, making a standard for how to conduct the training. Very important. Then you can disseminate this training a lot better if you also have a structured way of training the trainers. And just to prove how much this is a part of way at Toyota. When we think about the staggering turnover of Toyota, I don't know how many billions and billions of pounds and dollars they use, but 3% of the turnover is dedicated to training in the Toyota system, in the Toyota manufacturing corporation. How much do we use? Not a fraction of that. So, how did we start after having had the strategy process? We read The Machine That Changed the World and the book Lean Thinking that was done by the management. And just by chance, I happened to drink beer together with a guy in a pub in New York and switched business cards as you do. And later when we started with this, I found out Toyota. This guy, he used to work with Toyota, and I found his business card. And I sent him an email, said, do you remember drinking beer, blah, blah. And you shouldn't have anything to do with Toyota manufacturing principle, lean manufacturing. And I got back about 3-foot mail. He'd been working directly under the Japanese instructors coming to install the first factory of outside Japan. And he became actually, while he was still working with Toyota, our consultant for 3 years. We have been doing, we're trying ourselves, we also been working with Norwegian consultants. And as I say, we did a lot of mistakes and some good stuff, but the main thing is never give up. And a word of advice for people who gone into it and maybe say, well, we sort of leave it for a little while, but we will probably come back to it. I just say, don't give up, because it will give you benefits in the long run. So some of the tools we did, we started by standardizing all our operating, standardize all our processes. 5S, cleaning and organizing. We took one product and made it a flow, meaning we put all the machines that was used for that one product close to each other and made the leather flow from one piece, from one process to the other. We divided us into teams. We used a lot more visual management, pictures, one-step lectures. We started a 24-hour meeting. We made also a comprehensive competence matrix, checked out everybody who knew what, who could do what process in the whole tannery. And that was then the basis for the training. And that made us do the training where needed. And also we use extensively PIVO as our tool for the statistics. This is a digital version of our 24-hour meeting. This was was a board, and we have the day, and we have the various processes, and if it was red figures, then people, I didn't have to ask, people then automatically know that they should have an explanation for why, and there could be very good reasons why, but you should know. And everything that was red should be an explanation for at least till next day. So you had a 24-hour cycle of improvements. Things that took longer time was noted down, and they became then the management team's improvement list for when we had our meetings, as other team had their meetings. Say, okay, what improvements did we have open since last time? What have we done? Which one have we closed? Any new ones? Who's responsible? What's going to be done at what time? And that became, and these team meetings going through the continuous improvements, again, stand-up meetings, 10-15 minutes. This is the our competence matrix with all the names, and who. This is for the administration, by the way, yes. And who can do what process in the administration: shipment, archiving, mail, faxing, buying of chemicals, and what have you. Health and safety, as I talked about, the Green Cross. Every day you start asking anything that's got to do with health and safety issues. And if it's no, you just make you have actually a cross with all the dates for the month, and you just cross it out in red, in green, sorry. If there is any issue that's come up, oil on the floor that you could slip, trip hazard for cable laying, someone not using safety equipment, or something on a machine that's gone loose, or a safety switch that's not working, that hasn't come to any accident, but it has a potential for an accident. That was encouraged. Everybody who came up with one of those got a lot of tickets, and they could win up to 1 million kroner. I don't think anyone did, but I think one guy made 1,000 kroner once. But just to encourage someone to bring forward these, from the realization that by 300 all potential problems, you have maybe 30 accidents, and from that maybe 1 to 3 fatal accidents. And if you get rid of all the potential ones, you probably and hopefully won't have that fatal one. That's the performance. Improvements per team, this is all done in people. Some teams were more active than others, it will always be like that. 5S this is the improvements by various types. Making 1-point lectures, 5S, health and safety, informations, competence, quality, organization, productivity, standard work procedures, equipment, maintenance. 5S is, obviously you can do a lot quite simply, so most of them were on that. This is 2008 figures. We audited our 5S levels. We certified every team in their area if it was in order, and then we did an audit. I did an audit every month, and the supervisor every 2 weeks. The improvement activity went up, and we monitored, of course, up. And yeah, just when you do an improvement, take a picture before and after, because then to document how it was before. Once you've done an improvement, you really don't realize how it was before. And put these up on the wall for people to look at, because you remember. And it's a great also to show visitors. Simple paint job. Areas outside, they wanted to say that doesn't look nice, and also all the barrels, empty barrels, and how it was stored outside. Painting. This one I particularly like. This was in front of one of the machines, and that was the tool cabinet for the machine. What they were using the old sneakers for at the machine, I'm not quite sure. Can everybody see? And they said, okay, what do we really need to operate this machine? And they said, that's what we need. And that became the standard. You take a picture of that, you laminate it and put it beside that board. So when you see that there's something missing, you can see immediately from the picture what's missing. It's a very simple system. This is one foil that was beside this tool for the, this was for finishing. Again, finishing cabinet, all the drums should be presented with the labels readable. A one-point lecture, meaning to start the pump for water for one of the processes. Picture 1, start and stop of pump, stop, start, red and green. 2, by start of the pump, adjust the cranes as of picture. 3, stop of the pumps, the handle should be like that. It can't be more simple than that. But in this way you can say you go, start up the machine and switch on the water. And anyone can do it. Same as for tapping the water from the air at the Dynavac. Productivity, also we spend a lot of time in training, but productivity actually in manufactured products also went up. We monitored the downtime per machine and monitored on why we actually had downtime. I see maintenance was the biggest that we actually had to unwanted stop for maintenance, and then that made us, of course, focus on that one. And in obtaining results, our 5S housekeeping level greatly improved. In 2008, we had 1,400 improvements implemented by the teams. And these are improvements that is only within the team. We said that you are not, the way we organized it was that the team should only come with improvements that they can do something about within their own area of responsibility. If you open up too early for also making suggestions from other departments, it's so easy to say that, well, as long as everybody else could do their job, we could have done our job easier. In this way, you focus on what can you do yourself within your area. We half the throughput time, had a quicker feedback on quality, 24-hour reaction deviation. Probably what was mostly appreciated by our customers was the on-time delivery dependability. And we were from 96, and for a couple of years we were above 98% on-time delivery, the right quality at the right time, compared to your, what was confirmed by us by the order confirmation. And the expression industrial maturity was picked up by our customers, say that this is something we can relate to. And a lot of our customers actually said that this is the way we want to have our suppliers work in the future. What could we have done differently? We should have spent more time training. Not everybody bought into it as fast as we thought and would have liked. The next one seemed maybe a bit harsh, but it's a fact. The ones that after a while, after having been told and having been trained and are still against it, just because of old habit and just because they don't want to change and because this is some rubbish that we want to have any part of, sorry, you cannot work here any longer. And we lost some really good people that were so against it that they became actually we call ankle draggers or terrorists or whatever it is. But it's, sorry, they had to go. And we should have done more, being clearer earlier. We didn't team organize at the very beginning. We should have done that. We also thought that the production manager could do this as a side job within his job. You need a full-time coordinator for any commercial-sized operation. And we should have used more pictures in the standardizing, especially because also language barriers. We also had some foreign workers from Eastern Europe, Poland, Lithuania, and pictures tells 1,000 words. So what do I see as a future for lean manufacturing, not only in the tanning industry, but any manufacturing process, any actually, especially value-adding process. I'm doing some work as a consultant at the moment in a company making fireproof boxes for the oil and gas industry. The issues are exactly the same: training, quality, unclear communication. I think it already has started to become, and it will be increasingly a standard way of organizing any process. It is the best way to produce and as such to be competitive. I think it will be demanded by a lot of customers, more so than ISO. It is very rewarding to work this way, and when you see some of the staff really getting to understand that they will be heard, they can make a difference, and they, through their own suggestions, really can make a difference. They blossom, and it's some of the most fulfilling job that any manager can have, to see people grow and to prosper. And once you started, you're going to make mistakes, make them, back on your knees, try again, seek help, but never give up. I think that's the more thing. We did a lot of things, and sometimes when we painted ourselves into a corner, and everybody said, and everybody was pulling their hair out and say, well, what do we do now? We took 2 steps back, made a time out and say, okay, we want to do this, what went wrong? And we did a 5-why process, and we got back on track again and said, okay, we start from here. And then we continued. And that's really my message today. A little bit of tanning, more about the way we organize the manufacturing process. And as such, I hope that Professor Atkins' idea, or the idea of the lecture of being a practical focus on the tanning has been done. So, thank you very much.